Hello guys, welcome to Sim UK and welcome to 303 Squadron Battle of Britain. Now, despite having been in communication with the developers of 303 Squadron Battle of Britain for a very long time, way before release date, I was unfortunately not included in their preview early access release key list. Now, I was a little bit disappointed, I have to say. I'd put a lot of time and effort in, but they in fact chose a bunch of much bigger, more lucrative YouTubers and kind of passed me by. Now that upset me a tad, but don't worry, I won't let that affect my review of this buggy, half-assed, ignorant, pain in the arse, useless game. Hello guys, welcome to Sim UK. That introduction was of course a bit of tongue-in-cheek. I am disappointed I didn't get early access, but I do understand we're only a small channel. We're not going to get the kind of views that other bigger illustrious channels are going to get. So I understand the decision they made. It is a business decision, money talks, and you know how that ends. So I am instead going to have a look at the game now that it's had an update, version 1.2.1. There's not a great deal of stuff that's been fixed in here, but to be honest, I mean, this is an early access title, so it's going to progress, but I think it's going to progress quite slowly. There are quite a few things that are still not in the game. There's a whole bunch of stuff I think could be better, and there are definitely one or two little bugs. I'm just going to turn my controller on. Now, if you've probably seen, you've probably seen hundreds of videos on this already, so there's very little I can say that's any different to what anyone else has said, so it's almost a moot point. That's why I waited until the first update came out, which is 1.2.1. But to be honest, the update itself hasn't really done much. They've improved VO for kill cam and the bicycle riding. I'm going to find out whether or not they've fixed the fact that the controller doesn't work when you're on the ground. You have to use keyboard and mouse. But the controller does work when you're in the air. But to be honest with you, the controller mechanics, they're not... I don't think they're great. I mean, if they implemented something that allowed you to tweak it to your personal liking, then I think it would be fine. But, you know, sort of like IL-2 Sturmovich has that whole scaling option where you can really hone in your controller to the way you like to fly and what feels natural to you. I don't think 303 Squadron are thinking of putting that in the game yet. I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong, because I think it's going to need it, to be honest with you. There's a lot that I do like about the game, I have to say. Obviously, the era is one that's very much part of my personality. I love the whole Battle of Britain and World War II thing. I think some of the most heroic and illustrious people have come thanks to that war. I know war is a terrible thing and it divides nations and it causes death and destruction on the innocent, but it also brings the best out of some people and creates bonds between people that can never be broken. So, you know, I am quite passionate about the whole Battle of Britain thing, and the 303 Squadron, if you don't know, an illustrious Polish squadron that came over after Poland was invaded. They absconded Poland, if you will, and ended up in Britain and proved themselves to be some of the best pilots available during the Battle of Britain. And I think they had the highest kill rate out of all out of all squadrons during the Battle of Britain campaign. So let's take a quick look here at the options: screen resolution, windowed mode, vertical sync, all settings, epic, which is weird because they actually dropped when I hit epic. They actually dropped a tiny little bit, or they look like they did anyway. So if you look in the background, you can kind of see what difference it makes. That's low, which I think isn't too bad. That looks reasonably good to me. Medium, obviously, that is considerably better. High looks even better still. And epic, I mean, you're talking shadows and sharpening basically with high and epic, but yeah, I mean, I think the game runs reasonably well. Certainly it feels like a game of two parts. You've got the stuff on the ground and the stuff in the air, and they're not really the same. I'm going to leave the music on because actually it's pretty decent. Keybindings, okay, this is new, this has been changed, and okay, so what I was talking about earlier, the sensitivity, it looks like they've included it, so they must have been listening to feedback they were getting. I've only watched one video, I'll be totally honest with you, I only watched one video of 303 Squadron because I was waiting and waiting and waiting, having been in communication with these guys for so long before release. I was waiting and waiting and waiting for some sort of confirmation that a preview copy was coming out, and then just before release day I saw a whole bunch of videos come up, and obviously I didn't have a key, and I was just a bit slapped in the face, if I'm being totally honest. But there you go, that's how it works out sometimes. I will remember that for damn sure. Airfield controls. So it looks like possibly I'll be able to use the controller on the ground now. That'd be great. Gameplay. Let's check out gameplay. Imperial units, kill cam enabled, kill cam frequency. So that's very often. That's never. So let's go like 50%. Yeah, the kill cam just looks absolutely identical every single time. And there's not enough variety. I don't think I've seen a pilot get hit once yet. They have added a few additional kill cam views, like the engine and so on. But definitely there needs to be a lot more. The idea is absolutely superb. We've not seen it before. And it works really well in this game, I have to say. But definitely it needs more.
When we first arrived to Britain, we felt lost. So many months without a real home. So many months of disregard for our country and for us. The days of rigorous training in Demlin Academy seemed like a sweet dream. A curious thing, the soldier's life. At time of peace, you sometimes secretly long for war. It may seem a thing you are made for, a test, an adventure even. Yet when it starts, all you want is to defeat your foes as fast as you could, to end the tragedy and save lives. We lost our country. We also weren't able to help saving France. Britain was the last stop for Nazi Germany. And for us, it was time to fight. I learned I will be joining number 303 Squadron and was expecting to see some familiar faces there. We all were hoping to continue the great traditions of our former units, and with more modern equipment, we knew this time we have a real chance of triumph. When I arrived to RAF Northolt Air Station, I felt ready for any challenge.
So that's kind of the introduction, including the background story. Polish pilots were rather underrated upon their arrival, for good reason you might argue, but they soon proved themselves, and in some style, it has to be said. So, it seems like I'm being asked to press the spacebar and the controller is not working. So maybe we don't have controller support on the ground still. Oh, no, we've got some movement. Excellent. So just that intro. So I'm sure you've seen all this before. Little flyover to whet the appetite. These, of course, are Hurricanes, not Spitfires. Spitfires were not made available to the 303, but I'll tell you what, they did some tremendous things with the Hurricanes. So there's quite a lot of detail. You might argue that the graphics are a bit, I don't know, there's something about them. They have a certain look that makes them look totally unrealistic. It's probably the lighting or the shadows or the textures that's wrong, I can't really tell. But there's sort of a living, breathing company of men here, and on that front it works pretty well, I've got to say. The rooms themselves I find to be rather oddly shaped. And the characters are acceptable. In fact, I think they've been improved marginally since the demo version video I made. These guys just chilling out. How you doing, boys? You alright? Baldy, Scratchy, Sniffy, Smelly, and Weird Legs. We've all got nicknames here. So, yes, I'm glad to see the controller is working now. Let's jump on the bicycle. Well, that's not the right button. It says E to ride, but it's B on the controller. That's fine. Fantastic. And we're away. So, we've got a little... The turning on the bike is not good. It's not too bad. It's not too bad when you're moving. When you're stationary and you turn, that's bad. Okay, right, let's go to the marker, shall we? Over on the yellow dot. This whole airfield is going to be available, and it is going to be a living, breathing storyline alongside the combativeness of the aircraft. I don't believe at present, at least last time I looked. That's a good bit of audio there, by the way. Let me just do that again. Let's go over a bump so you can hear it. Now listen. Typically it didn't do it. Let's find a bump. A bump. That really is exactly... That is exactly what these bikes sound like when they go over a over a bump like that. You have to excuse me, I've got terrible hay fever today, and I'm a bit itchy, scratchy, sniffy, and all the other nicknames I just came up with. Except for weird legs. My legs are fine, I think. Touch wood. Fingers crossed. So these are the Hurricanes, and they're very nicely modelled, I have to say. I mean, I said all this in the demo review that I did, and not much has changed. I mean, obviously more is available now. One thing I find personally about talking to these NPCs is you have to get so close to them. See, that, for me, that's sort of where I'd want to stand and talk to this guy. But that apparently isn't close enough. I need to get even closer.
I'd like to have a few things changed.
Let's get to tricks right away.
Okay, so this game has a lot of stuff in it that previously didn't exist in any other game, and it's like this mechanics aspect is pretty cool. Now, how do I do this with the controller? I don't think I can, you know. So it looks like this mechanics aspect is not... You can't use the controller for that. So you will be using a mouse. Okay, sorry about that. Playing hide and seek. Hawk Hurricane install parts. Okay, so you can change your harmonization. That's probably quite... You know, if you get close and you get them on that cross field, then they're decimated. If you're a little bit further away, if you can't get that close to the enemy, then you're still going to hit them with the spray at the end. This is for really experienced pilots, I'd say. 150 meters, 165 yards coverage. This is probably me. 450 to 495. I think I need a far point because I'm just not that good a pilot. So let's install that back in there. And that's pretty cool that you have that level of customization. Right, let's go back to the controller. I think that's done. And we've got a few more things, a few more people to go see. So we'll see you later, buddy. That turning is awful. Awful, I tell you, awful. We're going to talk to Fedek. Oh, whoa, weird. I'll tell you what the problem is. If you press back and turn, oh, I don't know what the problem is. It's just weird. Right, let's right up here. This must be Ferric. Hello, Ferric.
Sergeant Franciszek has crashed his plane because he tried to land it without extending the landing gear. What is wrong with you and your understanding of even the basics of training?
Let me guess. Kent?
Yes, and Khaled was right behind him, nodding sarcastically.
Don't worry, Joseph. Unlike us, they both were brought up in countries with modern planes growing on the trees.
Don't be unfair. The Polish aircraft at the time were also said to be modern.
Yes, a decade ago. Still, the hurricanes may be growing on the trees here, but harvest is poor. Try to remember about the undercarriage next time. It is vital for us to not belly land. Consider the war effort.
Now that there, I can only assume is a classic example of Polish humour. It's sort of it's almost satirical, but yeah, it feels a bit weird, but it kind of makes sense at the same time. Ooh, a little bit of a skid there at the end. Hello, sir. God, I wish I didn't have to get so close.
Would you believe it? They called us the worst case in history. Well, let me rewrite that history they are speaking of.
Now that you've mentioned it, you still have the diary of yours, right?
Of course. Should I be forced to drop my lunch or the diary, I would rather starve than lose my scribblings.
Let us hope you will not run out of food, but only out of paper one day.
Let us hope we will run out of war sooner.
So it's all setting the scene, really. As I mentioned.
Excuse me, he will give an order to write information again.
Yeah, it's setting the scene, really, remembering that yeah, the Polish pilots were really not expected to do very much. They were kind of expected to be cannon fodder. They were kept out of combat as long as possible until I think they got bored and fed up and just decided to go start kicking some butt. And thank goodness they did, let's say that. Right, here we go, start mission. Now, again, I can't control this with the controller, which is frustrating. But we're going to go for realistic. We're going to go for hard, and we're going to start this mission. So,
keep up. Open the throttles. Gate if you have to. Paskevich already did all the exercise. You are the last one in the row.
Right, okay, so we've got...
A few of you crashed their planes during exercise. Could you prove you could fly at all?
So I'm going to try and head over to the waypoint nice and slowly so that I can talk to you about what we've got here. The control stick on the left controls the stick.
Well, it's not bad. Not bad at all.
Whoa, 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 whoa. The R1 and the L1 buttons on the controller control the rudder, which is actually pretty good because it's obviously it's progressive. Normally, in most games, it's the top buttons. It's the R top. What's that? R2 and L2 buttons that control the rear rudder, and that's actually really difficult to utilize because you do need to have control over the rudder in order to have control over the aircraft. I've got to say, I played this on release day for a bit, and it actually handles better now. It feels more like an aircraft, so that's improved, which is good.
You are not a disappointment. The rest of the flying should be a breeze.
Okay, so R1, or R2 rather, is the fire button, but it doesn't work at the moment. L1 is zoom, and that bloke nearly hit me. Is there another waypoint I'm supposed to be flying to? I think there is. Where is it? Yeah, this feels a lot better now. I am so sorry about the coughing. I have got the worst hay fever this year. It's only come on over the last sort of couple of hours, but it's starting to wreak havoc. Right, there's my waypoint. Wow, steady. This definitely feels better. This feels more like an aircraft now than it did at release day. One of the things I will say, I mean, I know they went for the bigger YouTubers so they could get maximum amount of coverage, but just see how many of those YouTubers come back and give you an update on each update. I just don't think they will. I think it's a one-off for them. Maybe they'll come back to it later at release, but they're not going to give you any sort of progressive updates, and I'm not going to either, really, but only because I've got other things that I have to do. Otherwise I would be.
Got your guns harmonized? Good. We fighters need to have a good perception, so sense your target's distance and predict the trajectory to know when the lights are green for shooting.
Even with little imagination, those balloons look like German Zeppelins.
Right, here we go. Now, the way in which I have to hold the controller feels completely unnatural, but the controls themselves feel pretty damn good. Why? earth can't I shoot this? Now I had some serious issues with throttle. Oh, well, it looks like shoot is now A. It's changed. Perhaps people didn't like it being R1. I didn't. That was terrible, but we hit it. We nearly flew into it as well. Oh, crikey. So previously, alright, this is going to take me a bit of time, sorry guys. Previously, A was throttle down and B was throttle up, and now it's changed. So now B is get on and off stuff. And hitting these is a lot easier. There was a problem with throttle. I found that if you, during battle, during conflict, oh, yeah, see, now the throttle is, normally the throttle's R1 and L1, isn't it? So it took me a while to get used to that was the rudder and not the throttle. But now, having got used to the fact that the throttle is A and B, they've now changed it again. So now it's not A and B at all.
Bandit, 12 o'clock.
Bandit, 12 o'clock.
Daddy-ho.
Right, now this is going to be bloody awful because
Prove you I can shoot well. And I will
BF 110. This is going to be awful because all the buttons have changed and I'm completely not used to it now. So this all feels completely weird. Plus the zoom in button forces you to let go of the rudder, which isn't great. Wow, so sensitive at the moment. Obviously this will need tweaking if you're going to play yourselves. See, the problem is I keep pressing R1 to fire because that's what it was. Great, now my dude's in the way.
Beautiful salvo. Focus me. That got him.
It was a BF 110, but does it matter? It's a training flight. Your lack of discipline is unacceptable. But your accuracy and piloting skills are impressive. For me, your squadron should be called operational.
Perhaps in the future.
So there we go, basically. That's how the 303 squadron became operational. They went out on a training mission. A bunch of Nazis turned up and they went and kicked their asses, and they became operational thereafter. Now, what I was trying to say there, but I was completely distracted because all the buttons, all the controls have changed now, so I'm a bit thumbs and fingers. The throttle during combat would get stuck at 0 or stuck at 100, and you'd have to, when you were trying to power up, you'd have to power completely down in order to power up. It was terrible. It was really bad. So I didn't want to review the game whilst it was like that. I don't think that is a problem now. It could still be a problem, but because all the buttons have changed, I'm now going to have to go and learn to change my brain sort of default for throttle, guns, everything really. But I have to say, based on what this game was like on release day and how it is today, it actually feels a lot better, and it's nice that the controller works 90% of the time now, whereas it was 40% of the time. So it's definitely moved in the right direction. Okay, so a large part of this game is the backstory, and that's still heavily under development. Where are we going? You can't look up. Somewhere overhead you'll see some aircraft. They always fly over every single time. Now what I find weird is that to accelerate on the bicycle you push forward on the left stick instead of R1, so it feels completely unnatural. I don't really like that. Maybe you can change it in let's just have a look, see if you can change that in settings. Well, I can't bring up settings with the controller. Keybindings. Flight controls I think are okay. I probably will change that at some point. Walk forward, walk sideways, aircraft mechanic controls. So you might be able to change this to work on the controller as well, I don't know. I'll have to look into that at some point. Once the game's fully released or when there's a really big update, I will be coming back to it and just giving you an update on things. But I think also in Airfield Controls there needs to be a separate set of controls for the bicycle, because I don't want R1 and L1 to be my walking mechanics. So I think they ought to be separated personally. But, you know, based on the fact that they didn't include me in preview beta testing, there's no way they're going to be watching this or listening to my ideas. So it's kind of a moot point, really. I'll mention it just because it needs mentioning. But I don't expect to see anything, in all honesty. Now I can press I to open the pilot's card menu, or it says I can. Is it L? No. I? Do I have to get off the bike? No, that doesn't work at all. I. Nothing. Is it because I'm near the bike? Let's move away from the bike. No. Pilot cards menu does not work. Okay. So they've introduced a new bug. Basically, it's like a top trumps of pilots. As you progress through the story... I love this sound. Why isn't there a sound when you go over that bump? That's quintessentially 1940s British, that audio file there. I love it. Yes, so they've introduced some new bugs, and those cards are essentially progressive. I mean, they're real pilots, they're real life pilots, so it's quite serious stuff, amongst all the joking and messing about that I'm applying here. Where are we going? Where are we meant to be going? There's an arrow here. Where the hell are you sending me? Right, so that area's not unlocked yet. You'll notice that we never take off or land. I'm hoping at some point that's going to be included in the game. That would be a terrible shame if they didn't include that. So I really hope they do include the ability to take off and land. What am I meant to be doing here? Do you know what? I think the game isn't going to let me progress until I open the pilot's card menu.
You want a personal touch? No problem.
Let's see if we go into the mechanics area and then press I. No, still not. We'll just press lots of buttons and see if it opens. Tab? No. Caps lock? Shift? Space? Alt? ZX? CV? BNM? No, I think it's stuck. So, I mean, it is early access. You will get to see bugs like this. Let me tell you a bit about the game. Came out on the 24th of May, 2018, and at present, I'm going to have to check, bear with me. So, at present, it will set you back £13.49. It's going to be £14.99 at full price, which I think, actually, all things considered, that's a very, very good price, especially when the game gets to the point of being fully released. Bugs like this are irritating. I can't now progress in the game. I'm now stuck here because I cannot open the pilot's card menu. And this is why, and I don't really want to go over this again and again and again, but this is why YouTubers like myself who get early access to games like this should be finding bugs and reporting them. That is the whole point, I think, personally. But again and again and again, all YouTubers seem to do is promote games. They don't help fix them. They don't point out the bugs, the flaws. They don't offer suggestions often. I mean, not many. And I think that's a damn shame, because we're in a position, a powerful position, where we get to show you games before games are released, and we help to ensure that they're at least playable. Because as we are right now, I cannot get into that menu. So I cannot progress the game. And that's me, stuck. And that's a big bug. But they won't be watching this, and I have no communication with them anymore, so we'll just have to wait and see if they fix that bug. And see how many big YouTubers come back and report on it, I guess. Sour grapes? Yeah, you're damn right, I've got sour grapes. Put a lot of time and effort into this game because I really like it. I like the era, I like the ideas. There's a lot of good stuff here, don't get me wrong. It is early access, so it's not expected to be perfect, but I can't show you any proper combat, which is a real shame, because I was really starting to get the hang of it. To be fair, with all the buttons changed, I mean, that there just shows how cool this game can be. With all the buttons changed, I'm probably going to be bloody awful. So I need some practice anyway before I record that. And as we can't progress anymore, I guess that's it. I wonder if I go and have a sleep, whether I can progress. Let's go down to the cabin, or the barracks, and have a look. No, okay, I have no idea where the barracks are. I can't find them without the HUD. Oh gosh. And there's a lot more to come. There's a lot more of the ground area to be covered. I've no idea where the barracks are. I completely can't find them. But yes, I do recommend the game. Definitely I do. And as the game progresses, it's just going to get better and better, I think. The combat is pretty decent. I'm glad that they've included the ability to hone and adjust your controller sensitivity. There's a motorbike there. There's a motorbike there. There's a motorbike there. Oh, they've got to give us access to this. How awesome would that be? I hope they do. I hope that's on the cards. I hope that isn't just there for the sake of being there. That would be brilliant. Yeah, there's a lot to like here. I really do like it. I think it's fantastic, and I highly recommend it. Keep an eye on it, most definitely. I think there's more to come. And once that bug has been fixed, I will quite happily go ahead and show you some proper combat and see how the game progresses. But yeah, until next time, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye for now.